Hi, I'm Chloe.
And I'm Bez.
And this podcast is for graduate teachers in their first 5 years.
We share our own teaching stories as well as advice and ideas we wish we'd had as graduate teachers.
Sometimes funny, sometimes horrifying, but always true.
We want you to thrive and love teaching beyond the dreaded 5-year cliff. Hi, I'm Bez, maths and science teacher, and my sauce of choice, might be controversial, is barbecue sauce. Unless it's at home, then it is sriracha. But if it's a meat pie, then I'll have barbecue over tomato.
Oh my gosh, that is so specific. Well, I'm Chloe, also your maths and science teacher, pedagogy extraordinaire apparently. My sauce of choice would be QB mayo. It is the most elite of the sauces in my opinion, and is also very nice mixed with tomato sauce.
Tomato?
Oh yeah, it's very French. You mix the
What
QB
about
and
QB
tomato
with
sauce.
sriracha?
I mean, yeah, that you do the tomato and then you add a touch of the sriracha
QB
for a bit
and
of the
tomato.
heat.
I've never heard
It's
of that.
actually so good, like really good with hot chips. You got to try it.
Oh.
But barbecue, nah, put it in the bin.
Nah.
Not okay with that.
Nah, I'm not doing a tomato.
Barbecue on a pie? What are
do
you talking
mean?
about? Sorry, tomato
Nah.
all the way for a meat
That's
pie.
smoky barbecue.
Oh, no.
Mixes well with the beef.
I mean, yeah, with the beef, but not with a pie.
Oh my God, you're missing out.
That's sacrilegious.
I'll make one for you to try.
Oh, man. Well, I guess I've learnt something new about you today, Bez. But today, I mean, we're going to be talking about learning in a different context.
Mm-hmm.
And normally we're talking about the focus being on our learners. But today, the focus is going to be on our own professional learning.
Yes, because as teachers, you are also students and
Yeah.
ever-changing.
Learning never stops, really, which is very different to what you think of as a student. You think that learning is kind of finite, and it is
Yeah.
not.
Static, yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about professional learning, and we know that as teachers there's a certain number of hours per year of professional learning that we have to partake in, and that can be sometimes our in-school learning. Other states are a little bit more like, no, you have to do specific accredited types of professional learning. It really just depends on where you teach and what state in Australia you're in. But regardless of where you are, it is really important to make sure that you're staying up to date, getting more ideas and making sure that, yeah, you're improving your practice as you go. So I'm keen to know, Bez, like based off your experiences, what are some of the best professional learning sessions that you've attended, and how did you find out about those sessions?
That's a great question, Chloe. So two come to mind. One is a senior science PD that I attended. And specifically, I was new. So I was teaching Year 12 senior science for the first time. And if you've ever taught a new year level or subject, then you can understand or empathise that there is not a lot of resources that you have.
And at Year 12, there's a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it is really time and effort consuming to create resources, but also come up with different teaching ideas as well if you're teaching
And
it for
also
the
make
first
sure
time.
that you're on top of the curriculum or the syllabus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot. So this PD that I attended, basically it was just a variety of teachers who taught Year 12 science and came and you could sign up to particular sessions. So it might be gamification. You could have a look at literacy.
Ooh.
You could have a look at extended responses and how to support students with that.
So were they like workshops throughout the day?
Yeah.
And you got to choose different ones to go to?
Yeah. So there were workshops and they were from teachers from a range of different schools within the state. And I just found that so powerful to learn off my colleagues in different schools as well. And yeah, I just started building this bank of resources. That's
So you felt like you came away from those sessions with like something tangible that you could then walk into your own classroom with.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it just also helps as well hearing your colleagues sort of empathise and be like, yes, this is something that has been
worked.
challenging, or
This didn't work.
this worked, this didn't work. this is how you can change it as well.
Yeah.
I found that the most helpful. And then the other PD was one that I attended on positive psychology.
Ooh.
So essentially it was managing students' behaviours from character strengths rather than...
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, rather than from... A lot of time we talk, when we have a look at students and wellbeing and behaviours and all that, we tend to talk about it in a deficit sort of view. So it just felt very... I don't know, empowering and inspiring. It just gave me a different lens because sometimes you get in the habit of doing things. So that was just a nice reminder of how you can, use positive psychology and how that, I did notice the difference speaking to students after I came back.
Can I ask, what was your key learning coming back from that positive psychology session?
My key learning from that is...
I'm just curious about the session.
No, it was a great session and I just also applied it to outside of teaching life as well.
Yeah.
But having a look at students' strengths. So, for example, if, they're quite influential in the classroom, like using that as like a leadership strength. So, changing the conversation that you have with the students. So rather than being like, why are you doing this? Or, can you sit down? Being like, I love the way that you take the lead. How about you take the lead with this particular group? I'm really trusting you, to navigate the group situation. So just coming at it from a character strength rather than...
Naughty behaviours.
Yeah.
No, let's reprimand you.
Exactly. So it's just playing on students' strengths. And I think when you speak to students in that way, if you're just like, if you said, for example... Chloe, I love how knowledgeable you are and how active you are, in the classroom and how you contribute. It feels good.
Yep.
Right? So I think that was the takeaway. When you come from it as a strength, you only encourage students.
I like that because I think students feel a little bit more seen. They're like, oh, wow, you've noticed that about me.
Yeah.
That's really nice of you.
And sometimes it might be something that they haven't seen as well and they might be surprised that you saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you, Chloe? What's the best PDs you've been to?
Yeah, best PDs that I've been to, probably similar. I think when I was starting out, I made an effort to go to, it was called like beginning teachers workshop or something. So it was specifically designed for teachers who were sort of just entering their careers.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was around behaviour, how to set different expectations with your class, how to liaise with parents, and how to make sure that you're not setting yourself up with routines that are sort of counterintuitive to what you're trying to achieve. And
I love the parents one though.
That was really helpful.
You don't get a lot of info on that when you're starting off as a teacher.
You really don't. And the part that I really liked about it was we came away with like some really practical strategies. The person running our session was very experienced and he gave us his details and was like, I'm really happy for you to contact me at any point, even if it's 6 months down the line.
Oh, that's so
and
great.
Like we did, and he responded and got in touch with us and it was lovely. So like just that network that you build with people. But also everyone who attended these sessions were also beginning teachers. So we're all in like our first or second year. And so it was really nice to there was lots of opportunities for conversation and we were sort of sitting in mixed groups. So it was nice to chat to people who were teaching at different schools and either having similar experiences or slightly different experiences. So it was just nice to learn from others.
Yeah.
And also just hear like, hey, I'm not the only one who's experiencing this. I'm not alone in my challenge. Someone else is also struggling with this.
Yeah.
And here's some different strategies we can try. So I thought that one was really good my first couple of years.
It's almost like you build a toolbox.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can pull on from people's experiences.
Yeah. And it just made you feel like you were a part of a community as well, which I think is really important in this profession. Other ones that I've been to have been more like subject specific. And like there's a few different ones that I've been to. One was like a STEM specific PD. And the thing I really liked about that one, again, it was like we got to go and we got to do the activities that you could do with students. But the specific thing I loved about this PD is that it was also aimed at making sure that even schools that were very under-resourced could run the same activities.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so like really simple things, like really simple pracs that you could run, inquiry tasks that you could do with literally alfoil, a couple of bits of wire and some batteries.
So really accessible.
Yeah, really accessible things. And I was like, okay, if we don't have the budget for this at, you know, our school, like we could still do this. So that was really good. So yeah, really practical. And then the other one was very similar to your experience too. It was more of like a workshop style run by, you know, different teachers who were teaching the same subjects and speaking to like different parts of the curriculum. So they might have been like experts in a specific area or a specific topic or looking at maybe a specific learning strategy. And then they shared like their specific resources and then like we would do activities and we got to walk away with all of that.
Yeah.
So you kind of, again, you could add that to your toolkit.
Yeah, and something that's tangible that you can actually use.
And look, a lot of those PLs that I found were through specific teaching and learning associations that I joined or followed or heard were really good.
Yeah.
So if you are like wondering, where do I find a professional learning that's worth my time, particularly because I know it can be a bit daunting to like take an entire day or if it's a 2-day PL event or however long it is, like sometimes in your head it's like, wow, it's more work for me to actually go to this.
Yes, writing all the like the extras and the lesson plans for when you're away. Yep.
Right? It sometimes feels like more work than if you were to actually just stay and teach your class.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really worth it. I think if you invest in the type of PD that's really going to help you with your growth and you find one and you've read the description and you're like, yep, this sounds great, it's absolutely worth your time.
For sure.
And then you can come back and you've just got so much more to draw from.
So I'm keen to hear, like you mentioned, you know, joining through associations. For someone who's starting their career off as a teacher, where might they be able, I know you said like, you know, you either heard it through colleagues, for example, or you found some.
Yep.
What sort of direction can beginning teachers sort of go in so they can find the relevant association to sort of join?
Yeah, so again, I think it just depends where you're teaching. So consider your state. I think in university, generally a lot of these different associations you're encouraged to apply to or join. So if you're still studying and you're listening and you're going through your rounds at the moment, have a chat to some of your professors at uni and perhaps ask them who they would recommend. You can generally, sometimes they let you join for free if you're still in uni. So look that up and you can get access to things there. Otherwise, if you're in a school setting and you're not sure where to start, have a chat to people within your faculty. So maybe your heads of department, your faculty leaders. The other people to chat to would be deputy principals or if there's somebody at the college or your school who heads up professional learning. So like my first school, we had someone whose job was like they were like the professional learning. I can't remember what their title was, but her job was to make sure that everyone was, you know, continuously developing professionally. And so she used to advertise different PDs that were coming up. And if she thought that something might be suitable for you, she would let you know. She'd send you an email or tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, I saw this PD. It's coming up soon. Like, let me know if you want to register for it.
That's helpful.
So helpful.
Yeah.
And the school generally has a specific PD budget. Otherwise, yeah, you can obviously take it out of your own and then claim it on tax.
Yeah. I think like your head of faculty or department.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, a lot of the PDs that I attended and the ones that were really excellent were personally recommended from, you know, either my head of faculty or another colleague who also taught the same subject as me and was like, hey, I went to this last year. I'm not going to go because I went last year, but I think you should really go. So I think, with the networking and colleagues, it's really the way to go. And that's how you can find out, you know, which ones are really valuable based on what your needs are.
And look, all those in-person ones, they're going to have accreditation and you'll get like a PD certificate that you can then keep on your file and your record so you can keep track of your PD hours. But don't forget that there might also be some remote style, like self-paced PD learning that you can do. And I know like during lockdowns and COVID and like that whole that whole part of our lives that we've all tried to block out and forget.
Yes. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. There was a lot of webinars, so a lot of online PD. So that's even still an option in some cases now.
Yeah.
So if you can't, give up a whole day, but you really want to attend an after-school PD that's 2 hours online, that might be something that's a bit more accessible. Or there might be some online self-paced learning modules that you might like to do.
Yeah. And the benefit of like the online sort of style webinars as well is generally they're shorter, right? So an hour or 2 hours. So I guess like if you're also worried about taking 2 days off.
Yep.
Although it is worthwhile, but if you are worried about that or, if it's not quite the right time, then the online webinars, that can be a great workaround solution and you're still developing your learning.
Yeah. And that with some professional learning programs, you might be enrolled in like a course that goes for a certain period of time. So it might be like a year-long course. Your school might have invested in it for you. And then you've got like a certain number of workshops or certain number of webinars or whatever it is that you attend and maybe some tasks to do. So I know that was something that one of my deputy principals signed me up for or tapped me on the shoulder for when I was, it was actually during COVID years, and it was a series of webinars that we were doing with some activities in between. And that was fabulous. Like that had a literacy focus, so it was a bit different to some of the other ones that I did. But having the activities and things to do in between made it useful because then you could come back and talk about it in the next one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of different formats. Don't just think, it's all in person, because that's not the case. I think there's a real big shift and focus to making this more accessible for teachers now.
Yeah, and a lot more active as well, because obviously if you're being a passive listener, say, for example, for a whole day, it can be it's a lot of information, so it can be quite hard to walk away.
You feel brain dead sometimes at the end, don't you?
Yeah. And then you also remind you're like, this is what my students feel. So gotta incorporate more activities.
It's actually such a good reminder, isn't it? Like you're like, wow, my cognitive load.
It is interesting.
I've been really concentrating. This is hard work.
Yeah. And then it's just like, it's a nice refresher being like, got to do activities, got to do this, got to break it up,
Yeah.
It is.
You put yourself in the shoes of the learner again.
Yeah. So for those who haven't been to a PD or a PL session before, it's a bit of an unknown territory, which can be quite scary. Looking back now, what would you recommend a teacher bringing along?
Or what to bring,
Yeah, or some tips, I guess, to get the most out of the PD or the PL session.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to start with something that's totally not what you've asked, but I feel like it needs to be addressed.
Go.
The thing that I used to worry about is, what do I wear? Like, how do I dress to a PD? Most of them are like pretty like smart casual. So like, you can get away with jeans and like a nice top or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't be walking around in flip-flops.
No.
Yeah, just like, dress professionally or just dress like how you would dress for a school day. That's if it's in person, of course. If you're online, just be presentable from your top half and wear your tracky ducks on the bottom because no one can see them, right?
And just make sure you don't stand up.
So, that was the first thing. And then in terms of what to bring, I used to always bring my laptop and laptop charger, but I would make sure my laptop was charged because you're probably not going to have the opportunity to sit next to a power outlet and there's a lot of other people.
Yes.
But I'd bring my charger just in case. And then I'd always bring like some pens, highlighters, and then either my diary because I was like a planner person. I used to buy like a personalized fancy planner each year. So I'd bring that and just like a notebook that I could use. And each year I would just buy like a little cheapy little notebook that would be like my PD book for the year. And I could date it, put the session that I was attending, and I really like taking handwritten notes. Some people like typing things up, but you do you.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would highly, highly recommend bringing, snacks.
Yes, that is a great
Some events are catered, but some aren't. So...
And the frequency and the amount of food
can
vary.
And even if you like the food or not, you just don't know. So, like, bring some snack, bring water, bring snacks.
Yes, definitely bring water.
And learning's like hard. It's
Yes.
brain hungry tasks, right? Like it's a brain hungry thing.
So what
you
you're
will
telling
get
me
hungry.
is bring sugar.
I mean, yes, Bez, we all know you love a cookie.
Because
3 p.m.
your
tea and a
brain-
cookie,
Yep,
yes.
your brain runs on glucose. So what I'm hearing is bring lots
Sure,
of sugar.
if that's what you need. I mean, look, how about a balanced meal? Some
Yeah.
protein, some fat, some carbs.
Some fruit. That's also sugar.
It's also sugar,
There you go.
some nutrients. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
I highly recommend, yes, a charged laptop, and to make sure it is charged, because I can't tell you the amount of times where I thought it was charged and it wasn't. And as you said, people are also using power outlets and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Or you turn it on and then it gives you like the warning that
Yeah.
it's like, you must plug it in or your device
and
is
you're
going
like,
to turn
wow,
off.
it's 9:30. So I guess this is how the day is going. But personally, I also had a PD separate booklet. Same as you, like I love writing pen and paper. I think it's personally just that's how I remember things. I used to type a lot of notes on my laptop, but I just felt like I filed it away somewhere, forgot about
Yeah.
it, sort of thing.
This is random, but did you have a favorite pen?
Yes, I still do.
What's your favorite pen? Oh, wait, I think you've told me this before.
I think I have. Yeah, it's
Is
like
it the
a
Papermate one?
Papermate. What is it? Papermate Inkjoy
Far out.
pen,
What colour?
but not gel. Black. I liked a black pen.
Oh, the
that has-
ink, but not gel.
Yeah, not the gel one.
Because don't you find the ink like runs?
No, so the gel version of that ran a lot more. And because I'm a lefty,
Oh, you're a lefty.
you just smudge
okay.
everything.
So not running is very important to you.
yes,
Color
it has
black.
to dry quickly. Black, I personally liked black.
Nah, I'm a purple pen gal.
Ah, okay.
Favorite.
I
is
tried a
purple.
4-pen because I know they're popular.
Yeah, but the clicking annoys me.
Yeah, and it was just also too large.
Yeah, like
To
you can't, it's
hold.
not as ergonomic. I
Yeah, yeah. And also, I just didn't like the ink
agree. Okay,
as
cool.
well. It just wasn't as dark. Yeah.
We digress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you
so,
tell we're teachers?
all right, pen choice is important. So
Yes.
your favorite pen,
Yep.
your notebook.
And then generally, to be honest, just the notebook, because a lot of times in the PD sessions, they would either give you the resources or the PowerPoint slides that they're using on a USB or a password on a website or a paper
Yeah.
copy.
I've
But
just thought of something for papers.
Yes.
What are they called? Those
Sticky
no,
notes.
not containers. The plastic pockets. There you go. Plastic pockets for any handouts.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good
I used to always bring
idea.
plastic pockets.
Oh, did you? See,
Yeah.
I was like a shove-in.
Nah, I
sort
was
of
like,
situation.
I was a plastic pockets or one of those like folders with the plastic pockets, the
Oh,
thin
yes,
ones,
yes.
not the thick ones, because then.
They're too big.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's all right. Honestly, I think pen and paper, and then just double check whatever session you're in, just have a look to make sure that you're able to get the slides or the resources
Yep.
somewhere, somehow. 2 reasons for that. You don't want to be frantically writing everything down
Yep.
because most likely you won't retain it if you're trying to. And then secondly as well, what that means is you can just summarize the main points from the session and then having like,
And you've got something to refer back to like trigger your memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, pen and paper.
Good
Fully
tips.
charged laptop. Snacks is a good one.
And also make sure you know where you're going. I was really bad at like looking up, oh, where's this event again? Like the night before. And then I'd realize where I had to drive or I had to figure out how to get there by transport and then how long it was going to take me. Like try to know that stuff in advance so you're
Yeah.
not like getting all anxious like
For
me at the
sure.
last minute. And plan to get there early
Yes.
because you don't know what parking's going to be like. You don't know how busy it's going to be.
You don't know how
wanna
far
get
you're
a
going to
good-
have to walk.
Exactly. You want to get a good seat.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to be that person that like walks in. I mean, if you are, it's okay.
Yeah,
like,
we've all been there.
Everyone's judging you. No. But yeah, you don't want to be like late and walking in like.
Feel like, yep, and the only seats that are available at the front, so you have
Yeah,
to do that.
that's always the
Walk all the
way.
way up to the front.
That never changes.
No.
It really never changes.
Doesn't it? So tell me, Chloe, all these PD, PL sessions that you went to, did you share any of these learnings anywhere else afterwards? I guess, like, how did you implement that?
Yeah.
And, yeah, how did you also share that with your colleagues?
Yeah. I think a lot of this came down to like how my school structured professional development in a way. So in some places, like we had very structured time where people could then share their learnings. and bring that back to the team, whether that was like a department-based PL that you'd been to and then you come back and you share with the department or vice versa. If you've recently attended a PD and you're like, hey, that was really good, I think that would be useful to share with everyone either in my department or with the wellbeing team or coordinators or whoever it is, let them know. Let them know if there's a meeting coming up. Chances are they might schedule some time, whether it's 5 minutes or something, just for you to feed back to everyone. And then if you do have resources that you've brought back, sharing those with the broader community, I think is very important. I think some people in teaching sometimes get into the habit of safeguarding resources, which is, in my opinion, like very toxic and like just not, doesn't speak to me.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing
I'm with
is
you
caring.
on that.
Like it doesn't speak to like, you know, the nature of
Teaching itself.
altruism and, you know, the ethos of teaching, in my
Yes.
opinion. We're all out there to improve education for our students.
Exactly.
And the way to do that is to all become better educators.
Yeah.
And to
when
all
someone
have,
else wins,
Yeah.
you win as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we're all
Yeah.
in it together.
Yeah.
Anyone who watched High School Musical, very valuable quote.
Yeah. So don't safeguard stuff, share stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Totally agree with you.
But yeah, that was kind of how we did it. Like often heads of department be like, hey, you just attended this. Is there anything that you'd like to bring back? But if they're not saying that and you think it's worth sharing, then I think be proactive, go and chat to them.
Yes. And that be proactive is really important because I think depending on the school community you're in, like some communities are very good at promoting and getting everyone to share their resources, which is really helpful. Sometimes I've been in school communities where people do gatekeep things or, you know, are hesitant to share. And that can be very frustrating as a teacher and then just also for the students as well because they're not getting the same opportunities.
Yeah.
that they should.
Last but not least, I want to know, what's your favourite golden nugget that you've taken from a professional learning session?
Ooh.
Little gems.
My golden nugget would be that positive psychology wellbeing PD. I just found the reason why is my takeaway from that is if you're using students' character strengths, the only outcome of that can be positive in terms of like their behaviour, their learning as well. So it's not just their behaviour, it affects all aspects of the classroom, which only positively affects other students in the classroom as well and their learning. So for me, I personally found, using students' character strengths, that sort of flipped things on the head and had a wider impact rather than just the student alone as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What's yours?
Ooh, golden nugget. Can I pick two?
Yeah.
Can I give you two nuggets?
Go on.
This one I'm going to say just because it's something that's just so ingrained in my mind, like it's stuck with me for some reason. So it's like it's had an impact. And it was just an activity that I got for a biology class. It was a Year 12 biology class and it was a resource that was given to us. And it was to do with, I mean, if you're a scientist, you'll understand this, transcription, translation and that kind of thing. And it was just an activity that involved students creating something. It was a really creative task and I got to take it with me.
Ooh.
And I just thought it was a really fun activity and I was like, this is fab.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's stuck in my brain. My other golden nugget would actually be from a free PD that I attended last year. And I know that we've kind of seen a return to more explicit styles of teaching and that's becoming a bit sexier in the teaching world again.
Yeah.
I love to say that, don't I? And so, I went to a session that like had, it was another deep dive on like the science behind explicit teaching. The reason I think I really liked it is it was a little bit more balanced. I think often in the teaching world, we kind of have these twos and fros between one end of like very inquiry, open-ended learning, then back to like super explicit pen and paper, like chalk and talk. And this just redefined what like good explicit teaching is. And I think often people hear the term explicit teaching and they think it's like
Chalk and talk.
I think it's chalk and talk. And like that's not what it is. And so, yeah, this person just unpacked like, really simple things about the brain and how we learn and, things like chunking, like things that aren't old ideas, but just went through and we did activities and then we talked about what it looks like and then we talked about how to explicitly teach, but then also ensure that our learners are actively doing things throughout the process. So I suppose it was more about in senior years, yes, there's a lot of content to cover, so you can feel like you need to lecture a lot, but it wasn't about lecturing. It was about being interactive. So, I don't know, I'm going to call it an interactive lecture.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought that was a nice way to kind of like marry the two ends of the spectrum together.
Yeah. It
and
doesn't have
bring
to be
the
so
science.
extreme.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be extreme. We shouldn't be defining it as extreme. So it was evidence-based, it was practical, there were strategies, and then we kind of were doing it as we went. Like the way it was presented, he was actually modelling the process.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, and I love that. When you can practice what you preach, like it's visible for you.
Yeah, because it's one thing for it to be in paper, in theory. It's another thing for it to be translated into practice.
And that
I have
was
another gem too.
Oh, go. I like gems. We all do.
One is actually, we actually haven't talked about it, but in one of my schools we did really well, like teacher observations.
Yes.
But in one of my Year 9 science classes, I had a teacher who had taught for like 30 years. She was like the deputy principal for years and then like stepped back and then stepped into like a literacy role. And she just had the biggest wealth of knowledge and just really challenged a lot of teaching practices that I did in the classroom. It can be really intimidating having another teacher in the classroom because you sort of evaluate yourself.
Yeah.
So just be kind to yourself as well. But like I dare say with like all the PLs that I've been to, having a teacher in my classroom or going into another teacher's classroom was so powerful. Just the strategies, the activities, how you can do things differently.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's a really nice follow-on to attending a PD. Like you might have just been to a PD where you're like, wow, I really want to try this in my classroom.
Yeah.
If you then ask somebody to come and observe you, you could say, hey, this is the specific thing I want you to look for or focus on. This is what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you can have a follow-up discussion about that specific thing.
Yeah. And that's such a great like follow-up from what you've taken from like PD as well. But that's my other gem. Just having
someone to bounce off and learn from.
Yeah. Is just
and help you grow.
Exactly.
Aw.
Yeah.
That gives me the warm fuzzies.
Shout out to our colleagues.
Shout out to our colleagues. Beautiful. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for today, Bess.
I reckon so too, Chloe.
I think our next episode is going to be pretty fun. Next episode will be last of the season, and we've got some fun things planned for you. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure that you like and rate us on Spotify or Apple. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.